Your gut wall contains up to 500 million neurons, more than any other organ outside the brain itself. And the bacteria living in that gut right now are producing compounds that shape your memory. Number 6 on this list carries more of one brain-critical vitamin than almost any other food on Earth. Most people in this country have never eaten it once. Number 3, you've probably been buying wrong your whole life. 2 versions on every shelf. One is alive, one is dead. The label almost never says which. Number 10 has been in every major memory research pipeline for 15 years. When they finally ran the long human trial, the results were not what anyone expected. I'll tell you exactly what they found, and why I still keep it in my kitchen. I spent 20 years as a registered nurse. The gut was always closer to the center of it than anyone in that building wanted to admit. These 13 foods are what the research points to. Everyone earns its place. A few carry real cautions: salt, medication tangles, and I'll name every one of them plainly. Nothing here replaces your doctor. 13 foods. Let's start with the one almost everybody already has, and almost everybody buys wrong. We'll begin with the plainest thing in your refrigerator: yogurt. But not the kind in the little cups with fruit stirred through and a mountain of sugar hiding at the bottom. I mean plain yogurt, unsweetened, with 3 little words printed on the tub: live active cultures. That phrase is the whole point. Those cultures are living bacteria, the friendly sort, and they set up house in your gut when you eat them. Here's why a nurse cares about that. There was a study out of California back around 2013, or was it 12, thereabouts. Healthy women ate a fermented milk with live cultures twice a day for a month. Researchers scanned their brains before and after, and the ones eating the cultured milk showed a calmer response in the parts of the brain that handle emotion and sensation. Their brains simply reacted differently to the very same test. I won't oversell it, mind you. It was a small study, the effect was subtle, and the folks running it said plainly it needed more work. But it was one of the first times anyone had shown, in living, breathing people, that what you put in your belly can nudge how your brain behaves. That's no small thing to a nurse. Think of it like an old unparty line, the shared telephone wire, several houses all on the one connection, everybody able to pick up and listen in. Your gut and your brain share a line just like that, chattering back and forth all the day long. Feed the gut steady, friendly company, and the messages traveling up that wire tend to come through a little calmer. The catch is buying it right. Sugar feeds the wrong crowd down there, so you want plain, and you sweeten it yourself at home with a little honey or a handful of berries. A blessing from the soil, those berries. Cheaper than the fancy tubs, too. 1 tub of the real thing does more quiet good than a whole shelf of the sweet stuff. Simple. If yogurt is the friendly neighbor, kefir is the whole big family reunion. It's a fermented milk, tangy, and a touch fizzy. And it's made with these little grains, not grain like wheat, but soft clusters that look a bit like cauliflower florets. Those clusters carry a far wider mix of bacteria and yeasts than most yogurts do. More kinds of good company, all in one glass, and variety down in the gut seems to matter. Studies keep finding that folks with a richer, more varied set of gut bugs tend to hold on to sharper thinking as they age. It's a link, not proof, but it keeps turning up. And there's a reason folks suspect it's more than coincidence. When that varied crowd of bugs feeds down there, they give off little compounds. Think of them as short, gentle notes that seem to steady the whole system, including the gut-to-brain wire. A fuller choir down below, a steadier song up top. In animal work, a kefir product given to mice bred to develop memory trouble seemed to steady the brain's own sugar handling and eased some of the sticky buildup tied to memory loss. In mice. I'll keep saying that where it's true, because a mouse is not a grandmother, and you deserve the honest version. What I can tell you from plain living is this: kefir's gentle on a lot of folks who can't manage regular milk, because those little grains eat up most of the milk sugar as they work. My own neighbor Ruth couldn't touch a glass of milk without regretting it, but kefir sat just fine. You can drink it straight, cold, first thing. You can pour it over oats. I'll tip a splash into a smoothie some mornings and call it breakfast. Buy plain and unsweetened. Same rule as before. Tangy. Living. Old as the hills. We'll leave the dairy case behind now and get to cabbage. Humble, cheap, patient cabbage. Nothing on this whole list costs you less or asks less of you. Sauerkraut is just cabbage and salt, left alone to sour in its own juices. That's it. No vinegar in the real stuff. And that's the first thing folks get wrong. The pale, shelf-stable kind in a can down the grocery aisle has been cooked and canned, and all the living cultures were killed off in the heat. Dead kraut. Tasty, maybe, but it's not doing the quiet work we're after. The real thing lives in the refrigerated section. Unpasteurized, still faintly bubbling. Those bubbles are the good bacteria, still breathing. Fermented vegetables like this feed the gut a double blessing. The living cultures and the fiber the cabbage carries. That fiber is food for the bugs already down there. When they eat well, they give off little calming compounds that ride that gut-to-brain wire we keep coming back to. And cabbage that's been through the ferment hands you more than the raw leaf ever could. The souring preserves its vitamin C far better than boiling ever could. Heat destroys it, fermentation holds it. And it lays down a dose of vitamin K, one besides. Our great-grandparents ate this way because it kept, and it kept them well in the bargain. A caution, and I mean it, sauerkraut is salty, comes with the territory. If your doctor has you watching your blood pressure or your salt, keep the portions small and have that conversation before you go loading up. Start with a tablespoon or two beside your dinner. Your gut needs a week or so to make friends with it. Patience in a jar. The cabbage learned it. We could stand to. Kimchi is sauerkraut's bolder cousin from the other side of the world. Korean, traditionally, cabbage and radish fermented with garlic, ginger, and chili until it goes tangy and deep and alive. I came to it late in life, I'll admit. It's got a kick. But once my taste buds settled in, I couldn't do without a little on the side. Underneath all that flavor is the same living machinery, lactic acid bacteria, the friendly fermenters, plus garlic and ginger, which folks have leaned on for their bodies since long before there were pharmacies. Here's the part that made me sit up. In a laboratory study, researchers gave kimchi's active compounds to animals whose memory had been deliberately impaired, with the sticky protein that builds up in aging brains. And the animals fed the kimchi compounds did better on their memory tasks than those without. Their thinking held steadier. The researchers pointed to the fermented cabbage's own substances calming the low inflammation and easing that sticky buildup. Whether the same holds true in you and me, at an ordinary dinner table portion no one has proven yet. I'll not pretend otherwise. The garlic and ginger bring their own gifts, easing the low, smoldering inflammation that tends to creep up on all of us with the years. Think of inflammation like a stove left on low and under the whole body. These old kitchen plants seem to help turn the flame down a notch. The cautions are the same too. It's salty and it's spicy. If your stomach's tender or your blood pressure's a concern, go easy and check with your doctor. A small forkful does the job. I keep a jar going in the back of the fridge, and I reckon I'm the better for it. Bold, living, worth the acquired taste. Miso is soybeans that have been taught patience. Cooked soybeans, a little salt, and a gentle mold to work the magic, all left to age, months, sometimes years, until they turn into a thick, savory brown paste. Like a good cheese, it deepens with time. A spoonful stirred into warm water makes a broth that's been on tables in Japan for centuries. And some of the longest living folks on Earth have had miso somewhere in their day, every day, for their whole lives. Fermented soy is one of the more studied corners of this whole subject. In animal studies, traditionally fermented soybean pastes help steady the brain's own sugar handling and calm the low inflammation tied to fading memory. The fermenting seems to matter. It breaks the soybean down into gentler, more usable pieces. A raw soybean is a stubborn thing. Your body has to fight it for every bit of good inside. Months under that patient mold, and the fight's already been won on your behalf. The nourishment comes pre-loosened, ready to be taken up without a struggle. That's what centuries of slow fermenting quietly bought those old cooks, long before there was a soul who could name the reason. One kitchen rule I'll press on you. Don't boil your miso. Stir it into water that's warm, not roaring hot. Boiling kills off the living cultures you went to the trouble of buying. Off the heat, then the miso. That's the way. The caution here is salt. So a small spoon is plenty. And if you're on thyroid medicine or you've been told to watch your soy, have a word with your doctor first. Savory. Ancient. A little goes a long way. That's miso. This is number 6, and it's the one most folks over here have never met. Natto. Fermented soybeans, sticky as can be, with a smell that'll test your resolve and a flavor that grows on you slower than moss. I'll be straight. It's an acquired taste. But hear me out, because natto carries something almost nothing else on a plate does. Vitamin K2. And not a little of it. Natto is about the richest food source of one long-lasting form of K2 there is. Here's why that matters to a brain. There's a body of research now, including a careful, long-running study of older adults in Chicago, finding that folks with more vitamin K in their brain tissue tended to show slower memory decline. Other studies link higher vitamin K in the diet with better word recall and sharper thinking in later years. These are associations, mind you. The researchers say so themselves, and I'll say it right alongside them. But the thread runs consistent enough that I pay it real attention. Picture K2 as a traffic cop for calcium, waving it into your bones where it belongs and away from the linings of your vessels where it doesn't. Keep those vessels clear and supple, and the brain gets its steady supply of blood. A well-fed brain thinks better. Simple as that. Researchers have noted that traditional Japanese diets rich in natto correlate with stronger bone density in those regions, a thread that keeps the vitamin K2 connection looking credible, even if the whole picture's still being worked out. A serious caution on this one. Natto is very high in vitamin K, and vitamin K works against the common blood-thinning medicine warfarin. If you take a blood thinner, do not add natto without talking to your doctor first. I mean that plainly. This is exactly the sort of thing a nurse loses sleep over. For everyone else, a small spoonful, maybe over rice. The creator tucked a lot of good into an ugly little bean. Tempeh is natto's tidier relation. Same soybean, different fermenting. This one binds the beans into a firm, sliceable cake, held together by a soft white bloom that runs all through it like fine lace. It's a fine thing to have in the house if you're trying to lean off so much meat, but you still want something hearty to sink your teeth into. Slice it, pan-fry it, and it browns up with a nutty bite. The fermenting does something clever to those beans. Raw soybeans carry compounds that lock up minerals so your body can't get at them properly. The fermenting loosens that grip, so the iron, the magnesium, the good minerals your brain and nerves run on, more of them actually make it in. Same bean, more given up to you. And tempeh brings a solid dose of protein and fiber together in one slice. The protein steadies you. The fiber feeds those gut bugs we keep circling back to, and they in turn keep sending their calm little signals up the line. I won't dress it up with brain study fireworks because the strongest work on fermented soy sits with miso and natto. What tempeh gives you is the steady, everyday nourishment underneath all of this. Let me put it the way I used to put it at the bedside. You can't build a steady mind on a body that's running short. The brain is a greedy little organ. It wants good protein, it wants its minerals, and above all, it wants an even supply, day in and day out. No famine and no feast. Tempeh quietly hands over all three. Cheap, filling, kind to the gut and the pocketbook both. Cook it through. It's not meant to be eaten raw. Here's number 8, and here's where I promise to be honest with you, even when it's less than a headline. Aged cheeses, a good Gouda, a real aged Parmesan, carry a natural compound called spermidine. Odd name. It's found in aged and fermented foods, and it does something researchers find fascinating. It seems to nudge our cells to clean house. Every cell in you keeps a little cleanup crew that hauls off the worn-out, broken bits so fresh parts can take their place. As we age, that crew slows down, and junk piles up, including in the brain. Think of it like a recycling truck that stops showing up on time. Spermidine appears to give that crew a poke to get back to work. In flies and mice, feeding spermidine helped protect memory as they aged. Encouraging. But, and this is the honest part, when they ran a careful year-long study in older people, giving them extra spermidine, It did not clearly improve memory over a dummy pill. An earlier, shorter study had hinted at some benefit. But the longer, tougher test came up mixed. So I won't sit here and tell you cheese saves your memory. The people are still working it out. And that's the truth of a great deal of this science. I'd sooner hand you the honest muddle than a tidy lie. A promising clue in a mouse doesn't always survive the long walk into a person. What I'll say is this. Aged cheese naturally carries both spermidine and that vitamin K2 we talked about back at Natto, and enjoyed in a small way, it's a pleasant part of an eating pattern that leans in a good direction. So I eat my little slice for the plain pleasure of it, and I let the researchers keep after the rest of the answer. The cautions matter here. Cheese is rich, heavy in salt, and the kind of fat to keep modest. And aged cheeses carry a substance called tyramine, which can be a real problem if you take certain older antidepressants or if you're prone to migraines. If either's you, talk to your doctor. A thin slice, not a wedge. I know what you're thinking. Bread? On a brain list. Stay with me, because real sourdough earns its place. Real sourdough is fermented bread, not the loaf with sourdough stamped on the bag and a shortcut of commercial yeast inside. I mean the slow kind, raised over many hours by a living starter. Wild yeasts and friendly bacteria bubbling away, souring the dough as they go. That long, slow rise does two quiet things. First, it frees up minerals in the grain. Whole grains carry a similar mineral-locking compound to the one the soybeans did, and the fermenting loosens it, so more of the magnesium in that wheat actually reaches you. Magnesium's one your nerves and your brain truly lean on. Second, that ferment gentles the way the bread hits your blood sugar. Ordinary white bread sends your sugar up in a sharp wave, and what goes sharply up comes sharply down. And that crash is when your thinking goes foggy and your mood sours. Real sourdough rises slower and settles slower. Steadier fuel. Real sourdough is grain that's been half digested for you before it ever reaches your plate. I'll not pretend a slice of sourdough is medicine. It isn't. It's still bread, still carbohydrate, and if you've got celiac disease, it still has gluten. But swap the fluffy white for a slice of the genuine slow-fermented article, and you've traded a sugar spike for something your body handles with more grace. You can tell the real thing by its chew and its faint sour tang, and a bakery that talks about their starter like it's a family pet. Some of the good ones keep a starter older than I am, fed every single day for decades, handed down like an heirloom from one pair of hands to the next. Fast bread rushes the grain and takes the shortcut. Slow bread respects it and respects you. Old bread, slow bread. The way it was for a few thousand years before we rushed it. Kombucha is tea that learned to fizz. You brew a sweet tea, drop in a culture, a SCOBY. Folks sometimes call it the mother, a soft pale disc, and let it ferment until most of the sugar's eaten up, and what's left is tangy, lightly sparkling, and alive. Because it starts as tea, it keeps teas good company. Those plant compounds called polyphenols, the same family that gives green tea its quiet reputation. And the fermenting adds the living cultures on top. Reviews of fermented teas point out that those compounds may help settle the low inflammation that troubles the aging brain. It's promising, and it's mostly early. I like it as a stand-in for soda. That afternoon, craving for something cold and bubbly, kombucha scratches it without the sugar avalanche. I keep a bottle in the door of the fridge for that very reason. A few cold swallows, the cravings met, and I've not opened a can of pop in years. That trait alone is a kindness to the whole body. The cautions on this one deserve real attention. Kombucha still carries some sugar, so mind that if your doctor's got you watching it. It's acidic, so it's hard on tooth enamel. I sip mine and rinse with water after. It carries a trace of alcohol from the fermenting, and if you're brewing your own, cleanliness is everything. A contaminated batch can turn on you. Store-bought is the safer road for most. If you've got a fragile stomach, or you're on medicines that don't like acid or sugar swings, run it past your doctor before it becomes a habit. Tea, bubbles, a little living tang, in moderation, a pleasant member of the family. Pickles. And here's a distinction that trips up nearly everyone, so lean in. Most pickles on the store shelf are made with vinegar. They're crisp and tasty, and they keep forever, but they've no living cultures in them at all. Vinegar preserves, it doesn't ferment. The pickles we want are the old-fashioned kind, cucumbers soured slowly in nothing but salt water. No vinegar, left in the brine until the friendly bacteria do their work and the whole jar goes tangy and cloudy. You'll find them refrigerated, often called lacto-fermented or naturally fermented right on the label. The brine itself goes cloudy. That cloud is the good bacteria living in there. These give you the same living cultures as the kraut and the kimchi, in a form most folks already love. Same gift, easier doorway, and the fiber in the cucumber feeds the gut alongside, and the pickle's a fine doorway for a doubtful eater. Plenty of folks who'll wrinkle their nose clean up at kraut or natto will happily crunch a good sour dill without a second thought. So if you're just starting out or coaxing along a stubborn husband, and I've known a few, start right here. Familiar, easy, already loved. A little confession. I keep the brine when the pickles are gone and splash a spoonful into salad dressings. My grandmother did the same, though I think in her day it was thrift more than science. Waste not. The one caution is the salt, and it's a real one. Keep the portions modest and have that talk with your doctor if blood pressure's a concern. Read the label. Refrigerated, salt brined, no vinegar. That's the whole trick. Cultured buttermilk. There's a name that takes some of you straight back to a grandmother's kitchen. It's not the buttery leftover from churning that folks picture. Today's cultured buttermilk is milk that's had friendly bacteria added and left to thicken and sour, gentle and tangy. A fermented milk, plain and simple. The reviews I keep pointing you to put cultured dairy, yogurt, kefir, buttermilk right in the middle of the fermented foods studied for the gut and brain connection. Those lactobacilli, the friendly milk bacteria, are the very ones researchers keep circling when they look at how fermented foods might steady mood and thinking. There's a tenderness to this one that runs past the science, if I'm honest with you. It carries the smell of a summer kitchen, biscuits in the oven, a screen door banging, somebody's mother humming at the sink. I've come to believe those comforts count for something too. A body eats better and rests easier when the food on the table also feeds something in the heart. The Lord wove us so that nourishment and comfort travel the same road. Buttermilk sits right there at the crossing. My mother kept a glass by the sink most afternoons. She called it settling her stomach. Turns out she was feeding her gut its good company without ever knowing the word for it. The old folks knew a great deal they couldn't have explained. A blessing, passed down in habits. Plain and cultured is what you're after. Check that the label says cultured. And it is dairy. So if milk troubles you, the kefir from earlier may sit easier. For baking, biscuits, pancakes, it's perfect. For the gut's sake, a cold glass keeps more of the living cultures intact. Humble, tangy, a grandmother's quiet wisdom in a glass. And number 13, the one that isn't quite a food, apple cider vinegar. The raw kind, with the mother in it, that cloudy, cobwebby sediment drifting at the bottom of the bottle. Most folks shake it up and pour it off without a second thought. That cloud is the living part. It starts as apple cider, ferments once to a hard cider, then a second time into vinegar, 2 fermentings. The mother is a mat of bacteria and wild yeasts that did the second job. I'll be careful and fair with you here, because this one's more kitchen helper than brain tonic. There's no good study saying vinegar sharpens memory, and I won't invent one. What there is, and it's decent, is work showing a splash of vinegar with a meal can gentle the rise in your blood sugar afterward. Ordinary starchy meals send your sugar up in that sharp wave I mentioned back at sourdough. Vinegar seems to slow that wave down, and you'll remember what I said about sugar spikes and the foggy crash that follows. Steady the sugar, steady the fuel to your brain. That's the honest, roundabout way apple cider vinegar earns a spot on this list. I want to be sure you hear me right, though. I'm not sending you off to sip vinegar for your memory. There's no honest study behind that. What I'm telling you is that a steady blood sugar makes for a steadier afternoon, and a steadier afternoon makes for clearer thinking. A small link, an honest link. No more than that, and no less. How I use it. A tablespoon in a big glass of water before a heavier meal. Always watered down. Never straight. And that brings the cautions, which on this one are firm. Straight vinegar is harsh. It can wear tooth enamel and burn going down, so always dilute it. It can tangle with certain medicines, including some diabetes and water pills, and it can nudge your body's potassium. If you take regular medication, please talk to your doctor before you make this a daily habit. A small, watered-down splash. That's the whole of it. Humble, sour, best kept modest. Now, let's gather all of that up before we part. 13 foods, yogurt and kefir and buttermilk from the cultured milk family, sauerkraut, kimchi, and those old salt-brined pickles from the crock, miso, natto, and tempeh from the patient soybean, a good aged cheese, real slow sourdough, a glass of tangy kombucha, and a modest watered-down splash of apple cider vinegar. Not one of them is a cure. I'll say it plainly one last time because I'd be failing you otherwise. These foods don't treat any disease, and they're no replacement for your doctor or your medicine. What the studies suggest, over and over, is gentler and truer than any headline. A gut kept lively with these old, fermented foods seems to be a good friend to the aging brain. That's the pattern. That's what I trust. You don't need all 13, and you surely don't need them tomorrow. Pick one, the one that sounded like something you'd actually enjoy. Add a small spoonful to a meal this week, and let your gut make its introduction slowly. Then, in a while, add another. Start where you are. That's how every good garden gets planted. Not all at once, but one seed, then the next. I'm grateful I get to share this table with you. The Creator laid this bounty out in such plain sight that we walked right past it for a generation or two. It's a quiet joy to help folks find their way back. If this was worth your time, do subscribe so the next one finds you. It helps more than you'd think. And here's my question for you, down in the comments, a real one, for the fermenting hands among you. When you make your own sauerkraut or pickles, what have you found keeps the crock from going soft or off? The salt ratio, the temperature you ferment at, or keeping the vegetables fully submerged under the brine? Tell me what's worked in your kitchen. I read them, and I learn from you. Until next time, take good care of that gut, take good care of that mind, and God bless you.